How do you get this little tiny thing to match that? Stay tuned. You know, if you're working in a studio, you can use the biggest, heaviest gear in the world, it doesn't matter. But when you're traveling or hiking your gear across the world, then every ounce counts. Finding the smallest, most lightweight but powerful package possible has always been my obsession. Almost all the new strobes nowadays, they use these type of reflectors. The 300s, the 400s, the 600s, the Neewer here. I hate these. If you want more brightness, if you want to use the true power of your flash, throw these away. What do my two favorite things have in common here? They both have a bulb sticking out with no frosted thing on the front. They're just raw bulbs sticking out. And that, my friends, is the way you get the most raw power, especially when you're inside of a modifier like a reflector and especially a softbox. So I had this thought like, okay, this is big and heavy and this is just a real hassle to carry around with me. What if I could 2 or 3 little 200s or 100s even match the power of a 600? Because think about it. Here's 3 little 300s, okay? Look at this. This is a lot heavier than 3 of these little guys. Or 2 or even 3 AD200s. How many AD200s and how many AD100s does it take to match this? And we're going to compare the Neewer Q4 also. The AD600 with a basic stock reflector and the diffuser over it is 16.6. The AD200 with the ADS2 4.7-inch reflector with diffusion, which is how I like to use it, is 11.5, so a stop less. The Neewer Q4 with its stock reflector is 11.3, so it's actually not as bright as an AD200 with a diffused reflector. But don't worry, this will all change when we switch reflectors. The AD100 Bear out of the box set to 85mm zoom is 11.2, just 1/3 of a stop less than the 200 with a diffused reflector. Remember, the 100 is already diffused and has the reflector built in. Okay, so what happens if we use 2 AD100s, one on each side at 45 degrees? We have 16.3. Wow. Remember, the AD600 is 16.6. That's just 1/3 of a stop difference. When we use 3 AD100s, 2 from the side and 1 in the middle over the camera, all set to 85mm, we are up to 16.8. That's more than the AD600. And 4 AD100s brings it up to 22.3. What if we use light intensifiers on the 100s? A ProPhoto Click Magnum brings it up from 11.2 to 11.6 on both the 28 and the 85mm settings. Not bad, but it's big and clunky. A ProPhoto Click Fresnel is much more compact, takes up almost no space, and brings it up to 11.7, 1/10 of a stop more than the Magnum when the flash is at 28mm. When it's at 85mm, the Fresnel actually lowers it to 11.1. So make sure your 100 is set to 28mm zoom when using the Fresnel, and 85 when you're not. Okay, so 2 AD100s, each with a Fresnel, gives us 16.8. That's the same as 3 basic AD100s, and it's more than 1 AD600. 3 100s, the 2 outer ones with Fresnels and the middle one basic set to 85, gives us 22.2, which is the same as 4 basic 100s, which is again brighter than a 600. Okay, so 2 AD200s, each with an ADS2 reflector and diffusion, gives us 16.6, the exact same brightness as 1 600 with a stock reflector and diffusion. Good to know. Alright, 3 AD200s gives us 22.2, the same as 4 bare 100s or 3 100s, 2 of which have Fresnels. Good to know. Okay, the Neewer Q4. Remember, with a stock reflector, it's 11.3, which is more than a stop less than the 600, which makes sense since the Q4 is 400 watt seconds. But wait, watch what happens when we replace the factory reflector with this left photo curved faceted reflector. It goes from 11.3 all the way up to 22.4. Wow, that's 2 stops. And each stop is double the amount of light, so that means this reflector quadrupled the amount of light compared to the stupid trendy factory reflector that everybody likes to use now. What happens if we put the left photo reflector on the AD600? It goes from 16.6 up to a whopping 32.1. That's almost a full stop more light. So if you are using the left photo reflector on the Neewer Q4 and the 600 would be 32.1, the Q4 is 22.4, which is the equivalent of 4 AD100s or 3 AD200s. Now, if you want to use a softbox, that changes everything. The AD600 is king and will always be. A 36-inch softbox on the 600 is 11.8. The same softbox on the Q4 is about a stop less because of the frosted bulb, and well, it's 400 instead of 600. The AD200 with a softbox or silver umbrella would be around 5.7, and the 100 would be around 4.09 with a flip 32 softbox. And there's not much you can do to improve the amount of light coming through a softbox, but with diffused reflectors, you can dramatically improve the output and still create the impression of soft light by splitting up one big light into multiple smaller ones around the face. Some people might say, yeah, but there's overlapping shadows. Most people will never see it. They'll just see a nice, evenly lit, bright face. And cross lighting can really make your subject stand out. This is what I like to do. Okay, back to reality. I never use 4 lights. Even the little AD100s, 1 or 2 is all I need. Here I am in the middle of the day in Death Valley, and I'm only using one little AD100 with a Fresnel on her face. The other one's for a hair light. So even one single AD100 is bright enough to light up her face in the bright desert. Remember how dim the softbox with the AD100 was? Well, look at this. This is where I use 2 AD100s with softboxes. This is cross lighting. Look how beautiful it looks. Do you see shadows on her face? I don't. This is using 2 AD100s, each one in a softbox, one on each side, and look how beautiful this looks. No cross shadows. But what about hard shadows? Okay, here's 2 bare AD100s, hard light, and look at that. Looks great. All right, let's hop up to an AD200 with the little ADS2 reflector and diffuser on it. This is just one AD200, and look at that. Look how beautiful that looks. This is just one little AD200. Okay, let's go up to 2 AD200s. So one on each side. You can get some really amazing shots just using these little 4.7-inch reflectors. Look at this. And when I do use 3 lights, the third light is always a hair light coming from the side or the back, which is optional. You don't need that. But look at what you can get from little tiny lights, no more than 200 watt seconds with no softbox. And 2 AD200s used like this can be as powerful as one AD600. Let's freeze it right at the moment of the flash. Look at that. It's brighter than the sunlight. And finally, let's go back to one little tiny AD100. This is without a flash, and this is with. Look at that. You don't need big giant 600s all the time. Here's 2 bare AD100s. So in real life, you really don't need 3 or 4 little lights, just 1 or 2. So there. I think for portability and lightweight, AD100s or the 200s is the way to go. You know, I thought it was interesting, like instead of one big one, can we have 3 or 4 small ones distributed around the person? And yes, you can. And it looks pretty darn good too. So there you go. Hope you got something out of it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.